Cheers and welcome to Irondale Brewing. Today we're going to talk about another Pinter kit, this time the Fourpure Citrus IPA. I'm excited to try this one. This is the second kit I've done in the Pinter. First one was the Stars and Stripes. It was pretty good. Not the greatest beer, but not bad either. Just a nice, solid, easy drinking beer. This one, the difference that you'll see in the video of me making the beer is it used one of those hop shot things that you stick in the back, so it was cool to try that. And as I've said before, mostly I'm interested in doing a couple of kits to get the hang of the Pinter, and then my plan is to do small batch, brewing when I want to try something out, or if I just, want to see if something's going to work, etc., and use the Pinter as the fermenter and serving vessel because, hey, then you don't have to carb it, bottle it, keg it, whatever. You just dump it in there, and after it's done fermenting, you serve right out of that. So, and I will say the first batch I did, the Stars and Stripes, I was impressed with the mouthfeel and the carbonation in it was fantastic just from naturally carbonating in the Pinter. And I, expect this will be the same. I'm going to tap it for the first time today since finally ready. It's been ready for a few days, but I was out of town. Went to LeConner, Washington. I want to give a huge props to LeConner Brewing Company. I had a flight of 4 different beers. All were fabulous. I had a Pilsner, brown ale, a porter, and a Northwest IPA that claims an IBU of 100, but it did not come off, overly bitter, hop burn, whatever. It was really well executed, just, very assertively hoppy, but really easy drinking beer. And then I had an English bitter on nitro that was absolutely fantastic. I think I got pictures of both of those I'll put up while I'm blathering. And then this back to the Pinter, the Fourpure Citrus IPA. I did not know this until I got this Pinter kit. Fourpure is a brewery in the UK. This is a beer that they actually make, and as with BrewDog and some others, Pinter does partnerships with breweries. I don't know if it's real or not, I saw they're supposedly doing a Guinness kit, which will be interesting to see if that's real. And be interested to try that as well. But again, I'm mostly interested in just, seeing how these kits go a few times before I do a small batch. And then I'll have a little bit of news on a small batch all grain setup I've been working on before too long. I think I have all the parts now to put that together. So we'll talk about that in a future video. Have a grain to glass coming out on the red ale. And I think that pretty much catches you up on what I've been up to. So let's get on with the making of the kit, and then we'll do a tasting at the end. It's a Saturday. I don't have time for a full brew day today, but what I do have time for is I got about 20 minutes to throw a batch in the Pinter, since I have a few more kits. I still haven't tried a custom batch on it. It's still on my list of things to do. That will happen soon. I'll have more to talk about because I'm building a little bit of a DIY thing to start that initiative. But what I'm going to be making today is this will focus. Yeah, there we go. Well, kind of. The Citrus IPA. This is, says Vibrant and Zesty Remixed. I think it's a collaboration with some brewery, but I don't have that in front of me because I'm doing this very much haphazardly today. So we're going to knock this out. I did get a second Pinter. I can't remember if I mentioned that previously, but they hit me up with another deal. Didn't come with kits, but it said, hey, if you want a second Pinter, you can get one for $49. So I now have 2, and I made space in the fridge. I'm not going to be able to cold crash them consistently in the fridge. That does take up a lot of space, but occasionally I'll be able to do it in my kegerator or possibly in my fermentation chamber. But for now, we're just going to ferment on the counter and not cold crash this batch and see how it turns out at the end. So we'll get going. In terms of the kit, this one's a little bit different than the first one I did. It comes with the usual fresh pack, I think they call it. Fourpure is the brewery name, and this is a citrus IPA. Sounded interesting. The usual purifier for cleaning, which we'll do in a second here. This one comes with spark yeast. I can't remember if that's the same one that I used last time or not. I think it's different. And then this one, one of the reasons I got this kit is because it comes with the hopper. So this is a little hopper bottle that come with some of them that you screw in the back to add some additional hops during the brewing process. I think it's during. I don't know. I'm learning as I go here on this kit. And I thought that would be cool too, because then if later I want to add something to a custom batch, I don't know, this bottle's probably a normal thread size, but then I have one of these left over that, if you clean it and sanitize it, I could use for other things. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know if that's me being or thinking wishfully. I don't know if that's a phrase or not, but or if that'll actually work for some reuse. So I'm going to get this filled up with some warm water and shake it up with the purifier. All right, we cleaned. I figured I wouldn't film that, and I'm kind of trying to do it as quickly as possible today to give you a sense of just how fast you can do this when I'm not, like the last video I did, I went very step by step. So it is cleaned, and the next step is to add water. So again, I'm just using bottled spring water. Talked about this in the last video, but you don't really want to use RO or distilled. Just plain old things that are labeled spring water or drinking water will work best. If you want to get fancy with your water, you certainly can, but if you're doing extract, you don't need to. If you're just using one of the kits. Okay. Get the water in here. Sorry, I may be blocking the shot a little bit. I gotta see how far this gets filled. And you just fill, there's a pretty clear distinction between the white interior and a black line, and that's your fill line. Which I think is 5 liters total. And for cleaning, you just follow the instructions in the app. I didn't really feel like I need to go through that again. You get one of these, it's pretty easy. You basically just fill it up with warm water and your purifier. Okay, there's my fill line, and shake it around for a while and open the various ports to make sure you get the cleaner through there as well. And that's pretty much it. So I think I'm going by the phone here, and then you add the fresh press. So the only thing I do differently here that I mentioned in the last video as well is I put the bag of fresh press in a bowl of warm water, pretty warm, just warm tap water, just to loosen it up a little bit. And then I do have a spray bottle of Starthan that I use to break my hopper, to sanitize my scissors, and my the top of the bag of the fresh press stuff. Probably not totally necessary, but you can't be too careful. So take the scissors up there. Just gotta do this off to the side here. And I'm just like taking this spray bottle of Starthan and spraying the area that I'm gonna cut on the pouch for the malt extract, and then cutting. Set my scissors in the sink, and then we add it in there. And I think hopefully this will get. I think you should be able to see this. And you just add it in there, and yeah, it flows much nicer when it's warmed up. And again, you just want to get as much out of there as you can to make sure you get the full flavor, ABV, etc. of the beer. And for those of you not familiar with Starthan, if you see bubbles dripping down in there, Starthan is totally not a problem to have in your beer. Don't chew the foam is the company's motto, and it's totally fine. And when you're doing all grain brewing, it actually acts as a little bit of a, I'll probably skip my arm in the way, sorry, acts as a bit of a yeast nutrient. So, all right, I'm just going to take this off to the side and roll it up a little bit. Again, you just want to squeeze it out like a toothpaste tube and just make sure you're getting every bit of that syrup out of there. Otherwise, you end up with potentially a little bit weaker beer. And don't go too crazy, but yeah, give it a little bit of extra effort beyond just dumping it out. Make sure you're getting your money's worth, so to speak. And literally, these again, I've probably said this before. These kits aren't cheap, but it's like everything in life. You pay for convenience. There's trade-offs with everything. In this case, somebody else did a lot of the brewing process for you, and that saves you time later. We just had a pretty spirited discussion with BrewTubers the other night on a call about extract versus all grain, and I am of the opinion that there's a place for both. And certainly if this gets people into brewing that otherwise wouldn't get into it, it's probably a good thing. Okay, so that's about all I'm going to get out of here, I think, without going too crazy. That's good. And then I'm going to check the phone app, but I think at this point, you pitch the yeast, and then you shake it for 60 seconds. Put the lid on, obviously. Same thing here. I'm just going to sanitize the top of the yeast pack here. it tears off pretty nicely. Last pack I had didn't really tear. I just used scissors, but came off nicely. Okay, sprinkle the yeast in here. And since you're going to shake it, it doesn't really matter. If you're pitching yeast in like a, normal batch of beer where you're not going to shake your fermenter, you kind of want to spread it out a little bit so there's no clumps, but in this we're going to shake the hell out of it. And make sure that you get all the yeast out of there too, because they give you the exact amount you need. And in my case, there's a little bit off in the corner. So just expand the pouch and make sure you get it all in there. Okay, and then at this point it said set aside the hopper, so we use this later. I'm assuming it kind of comes later in the brewing process, but I have not done a batch with this with the hopper yet. And then you put the lid on. I probably said this before too, but I do like that the way they've designed this, you can't really go wrong. There's all, no matter where you start, it goes in the right position to fold that handle down. And then I think the next step is I shake it for a minute, and then we attach the brewing dock and flip it around. So I'm going to shake it off camera. You don't need to watch that. And I don't want to move my camera around, and we'll be back in a second. All right, got my exercise. I shook for 2 minutes. They say 1. A lot of people in the forums and whatnot say doing extra is better. Let me make sure I'm getting that. Feels like I'm off to the side. That's okay, because then when I flip it over, it'll be in the middle. But then the next step after you get the yeast in there and shake it up is put the brewing dock on there. Just line up the tabs. Push down a little bit since there's a gasket there. Crank it on. Make sure it's aligned. And the fun part, you flip this over. Yeah, I'll move it later. I'll just throw it on this towel for now. And you hear the satisfying glugging noise. And that is it. And I think even with me talking a little bit, that took about 20 minutes, which is pretty cool. So that, I think I picked a custom ferment. I'm going to let it go for 10 days, I think. Probably not going to cold crash because I won't have the space for it. So that'll be an interesting twist. I did cold crash last time. And then we'll do a tasting when this is all done. All right, it's time to add the hops to this batch. I'm just going to do this on my phone because it's quicker. A little pressed for time this evening. So this is the hopper for the Fourpure Citra. I can't remember. I should have looked at it before I started recording. Apologize. Fourpure Citrus IPA. So the way this works, if you're familiar with this, I've never done this on a pinter before. This is only a second batch, and my last one didn't have this. So basically, this you remove this cap here, you screw this thing in, and you wait. And I'm just adding the step of I am going to use a little star sand because I'm paranoid. Just gonna spray some star sand there and spray some on the lid of this thing here. At this point, the beer is far enough along. This is probably not totally necessary, but again, if you can avoid any sort of infection, that's a good thing to do. So let's go ahead and open this. And this is, again, overkill. Okay, set that down for a second. And then apparently, I've never done this before, but apparently there's a little bit of a you have to push down when you do this, maybe. At least I've seen people make reference to that particular cleaning. Okay, apparently you don't do that while you're hopping out because it hit the threads before I would be pushing down on anything. I think when you're cleaning, there's a little bit of downward pressing action. All right, I'm gonna grab a towel because I got it a little bit wet, so it's slipping on me. All right, and there's a piece of foil, as you saw on the top, that I assume gets pushed aside when you open this up. And depending on the recipe, I watched a Bitter Reality video on the stout, the special edition stout that they did with Shadows and Cream, I think it was called. Apparently that one, the fluid in this little addition vial, I guess, however you want to phrase it, was less thick. Some of the other batches that I've seen people talk about, the contents of this is more thick. So I'm just gonna let that sit. I think they said like let it sit for 5 minutes or something. So I'm just gonna let it sit for a few minutes, and basically after you've waited a while, you just unscrew that and put the cap back on. And then it's time for conditioning. Now this batch I am not gonna cold crash just because I don't have the space in the fridge. I think generally speaking, as a rule moving forward, I'm not gonna have the space to cold crash because that takes up my beer fridge out here. I have to take all the shelves out because it's kind of a smaller fridge and freezer. Occasionally I'll probably be able to could cold crash some in my fermentation chamber, which actually, since that's full of beer that I can't now, I might be able to do it. Either way, it's going to be conditioning time after this is done, and then can't remember how long it conditions for, like I want to say a week on this one, and then we'll have a tasting. Looking forward to this one because it's the addition of the hop stuff is pretty fun, and how can you go wrong with citrus IPA, right? Just wanted to get a shot of the hop vial after it's done its thing. You can see the metal on top there, the foil gets pierced when you screw it down into the port on the top, and it smells fantastic. It smells just like Citra hops. So I think, again, I've said this in my Pinter intro video, I think that's a very clever design way of adding things to this closed system that is dependent upon staying closed to get you carbonation. But you can see at the top there, a little bit of residue in there. I just am noticing now, but it is what it is. But anyway, that's a clever way to do it. And I'm going to save that vial because when I start doing my own recipes, it seems like it'd be handy to have that around if I wanted to add something. I don't know what that would be. I've seen other people do other methods of adding things to their own recipes, but we'll talk about that when I get around to doing it, which you can see the remnants of this other project going on. That's part of getting a system going for doing these small batches that I'll ferment in the Pinter, but more on that to come. So I almost screwed this up because I didn't think about the fact that after you add the hop addition, you're supposed to immediately condition and undock and all that good stuff, which makes sense because otherwise the hops would just fall the way through. So a couple of minutes after I thought I would cold crash, I realized, nope, that's it's a reason that they don't have you do it in that order. So I'm just going to undock now, and we're going to skip the cold crash and just go to conditioning. I do have the little hop vial. I just loaded up some oxygen brewery wash in there to let that soak, get the citrus out of there in case I want to do something different with it. So we're just going to go ahead and undock. I remember I did this last time. Yeah, there we go. Wow, that really that really popped out of there a little bit more vigorously than my first batch. Okay, so a little bit of foam. Set this up here. Sure, drip on the counter, and that's fine. So I can get the weird angles. Actually, I'm just gonna set this and grab it, and I'll set it out of the way. So you see what's going on with the dock, the gross part. Yeah, but the front of that thing stays pretty clean. I always tend to just kind of wipe it off with a paper towel and again zap it with some Star San. Keep it nice and sanitary. But, well, you can see that, yeah. Quite a bit of bubbling activity going on. Lift that up a little bit. Some chunks in there, just to be expected. Man, it smells very, very citrusy. Oh, wow. Having a little volcano coming out of there with me bumping it around. That's, yeah. So anyway, there's your trube. Totally normal. But yeah, it smells, man, yeah, that smells super citrusy. So I'm kind of anxious to try this beer. I hope, like I said, I went back in the house and like 5 minutes later, not even, I realized, nope, I think I did that wrong and came out to undock it. So hopefully I didn't lose too much in the way of the hop additions. By letting it sit for a minute. And again, I said this in the first video, what I do is when this is all emptied out, just rinse it out super thoroughly, make sure there's no chunks in there, and then I will dump some oxygen brewery wash in this with some kind of hot tap water. It doesn't have to be super hot, and I'll let that soak overnight, and and then rinse real well, spray it down with some Star San. That tends to do it. I don't notice. I mean, I'd say check after you've cleaned it and rinsed it and used whatever cleaner your choice on it. If it still smells like beer, repeat as needed, but I tended not to have that issue after one shot. We'll get this rinsed out. Just give you an idea if you haven't done this before, kind of the level of stuff coming out of there. It's not a lot. You know, this thing's relatively easy to clean. Don't have to obsess about it too much. Just get it nice and emptied first. You want to have it, you know, kind of free of debris before you put the cleaner in there. So what I do is just kind of rinse it out several times, shake it around a little bit, and then when I think it's probably pretty good, I don't see much coming out of there, just fill it up part way, and then put your hand over it. That's what I do anyway. Shake it up really well. And some people have said they hear water in the thing, but I think that's more on the Pinter. But these, because these feet don't seem to come off. I have not had that experience. Anyway, if you're water sloshing around in this or the Pinter, these the rubber parts, you might have to touch one of them. Okay, so you can see that's already coming out pretty clean. Do that one more time, and then we will distill it up with some oxygen brew wash. I'll show you that if you didn't watch the other video, just so you know what I'm talking about. Basically the same thing as OxiClean Free, which I also have some of, but I got the OBW already open, so we'll use that. Okay. All right, so pretty much nothing coming out of there. So, get the sink rinsed. Put that down for a second. And then, oh, sorry, I don't have a mic on. I realize I'm doing this on my phone without a mic on. I apologize. We can't hear what I'm saying way over there. This is the stuff I'm talking about. Oxygen Brewer Wash. It is the same. Well, it's not the same. It is functionally equivalent, and you can equally well use OxiClean Free. Just make sure and get the free stuff. No perfumes, no dyes. It's all what is it? Sodium percarbonate, something like that. Anyway, this is good stuff. Don't use dish soap. I'm gonna stick with that. I know people use dish soap and don't have a problem. So I'm just gonna get this filled up. I have a point of use water heater, so it takes a minute to get nice, you know, pretty hot water going, and then just let it soak overnight. Should be good. Glad I saved that. That would have been a kind of a mess. All right, and here we have the Fourpure Citrus IPA. You can see right away the carbonation level is really nice. I don't know how well you can see it on the... This is a little bit hazy. I did not cold crash this one. I'll probably stick something in the video earlier by the time I record this. I started to cold crash it, but my sequence was out with the timing of putting the hops in. And I realized right after I put the hops in, let it drain, was sticking in cold crash. Like, nope, if you do that, all the hops are just going to go down into the dock. So I, immediately changed course and got it off the dock. Hopefully didn't. I don't think I probably lost too much of that hop liquid character. But so it's not as clear as the first one, I don't think. And it's been in the Pinter for conditioning for, I think, about 10 days, maybe a little bit more now, since I was out of town for the weekend. But again, the carbonation is great. The head's, it's not sticking around that much, but it's leaving lacing as it goes down. And there's definitely some bubbles coming up in there. Let's see how it smells. Definitely a lot of citrus on the nose. So I definitely think I got the benefit of that hop character from the little vial. The real beer on the Fourpure website, they describe it as orange and mango. I'd say this is mostly orange to me on the nose. And it does have that, that yeasty character to it, just like the first one did. I think, probably you're going to get that since you're, fermenting and serving from the same thing versus my usual process of getting stuff out of the fermenter, getting it in a keg. But it's not unpleasant. It smells like nice, nice fresh beer. In fact, I just had the Sierra Nevada estate land beer last night, and it had a very significant yeast aroma to it. So I don't know if that one's bottle conditioned or whatever, but it was clearly not like their usual, and that's kind of similar. You get that yeast aroma. So it's kind of yeast and citrus, but not unpleasant. Head's going away at this point. And like I said, this one is hazy, not as clear as the first one, but it has a nice kind of, I'd call that kind of a golden, a little bit orangey color almost. Not a bad looking beer. All right, let's see how this one tastes. Oh, and then the head, it's nice and white and fluffy. And I forgot to mention on my first Pinter batch with the Stars and Stripes, the carbonation lasted through all 11 pints or whatever I got out of that. So some people have kind of speculated, since it naturally carbonates, does it have enough carbonation to get you through the whole batch? And it definitely did on my first try anyway. So, all right, let's give this a taste. Wow, a lot of citrus in the flavor. That is, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, a lot of citrus, some pretty, assertive hop character to it. Probably from the base batch. I can't remember how many IBUs they said this was. I'll put it on the screen. Decent, it's probably about I'd call it a medium thin mouthfeel. Not thin, that's a bad word. Medium light mouthfeel. Very easy drinking. For me, I'd say the hop burn in the aftertaste is a little bit much. Could be a little bit better balanced, but it's a pretty good tasting beer. I do not get as much of the yeast character, and I definitely don't get any of the first batch. I got a little bit of that liquid extract twang in the aftertaste. I do not get that in this one. Yeah, I'd say this one works a lot better than the Stars and Stripes. Does not taste as homebrewy as to use. Of course, if you make a good homebrew, it's as good as any beer out there. But the typical extract reputation, is particularly liquid extract, I should say, is not great. This one does not have any of that going on. It just tastes like, I just think it's a little bit out of balance with the hops. And don't get me wrong, I like a hoppy beer. It's a little bit harsh, I guess is the way I'd put it. And I think you'd be a little bit better balanced. But overall, really good flavor. I mean, I drank half the glass now, so you can tell I don't hate it. But and I'm still, I continue to be impressed. Well, continue on my second batch to be impressed with the mouthfeel that you get and the carbonation you get from the Pinter. That's really, decent amount of carbonation. You can see the lacing on the glass. You got a little bit of head sticking around. But yeah, that's really nice. I think it's going to be great for small batch, all grain for sure. Kind of simplify the process when you just want to try something. You just throw it in there and then that's it. And then you serve from it, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I like that beer. I'll drink the whole thing. Not today, but over time. Like I said, if there was one thing I'd change, it's probably the hops are just a little bit harsh, and they could use some smoothing out, or maybe a little bit more malt to balance it out or something. But not bad. I'm pretty impressed with that kit. I think I have 2 or 3. I can't see over there. 2 or 3 more kits to try. I don't remember what all they are, but I'll probably go through the rest of those. And now that, like I said, now that I have all the parts for my small batch setup that I want to use for doing small batch all grain. Won't be long till I do an all grain batch in the Pinter, which will be pretty fun to try. So look out for that one. Probably next video I have coming out is the grained to glass red ale. It's a little bit delayed. And we're going to compare mine with Wrecked Brewery's version. It was his recipe. We both brewed it. He used some local malts local to him. I just got kind of run-of-the-mill commercial malts that you can get from Beer Wine Hobby. And we're going to compare how the two came out. So be on the lookout for that one. In the meantime, yeah, good job, Pinter. Better on this one than the Stars and Stripes. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.